Welcome to the TryPod special edition. I think we're off to a cracking start because it was meant to be a live Instagram feed, and I don't know if that has worked at all, but it is Winny. If you couldn't tell, joined by my great friend Neddy from Neddy Given Sunday. First thing I've got to say, it's not an NRL pod. We did the round 27 preview with Clarkey last night, but for those who are aware, the pigskin kicks off this week as well. So the NFL season back upon us, which is very exciting, and especially for me to link up with you, Neddy, because I know you've kind of been in hibernation and just preparing for this very moment. And now we get to share, let's say, the next hour, just unpacking as much as we can. And we have so many bets. I know I have way more bets than I thought I would come up with, and I'm sure you've got a ton as well to share with the good people who are tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, mate. Thank you for that very nice intro. Yes, full hibernation, as I usually do for the 6 months, whatever it is. Contemplate life, hang out with my family, try and get my shit together. It never happens, and then all of a sudden the season rolls around. It's Wednesday. We're doing a late night pod, and I'm ready to rock and roll on the Friday.
Well, let's get straight into it. I'm just going to basically bring up the markets, and we're going to go division by division, and just let me have it. Every thought you have on certain teams, positive or negative, any bold opinions, any bets. You've already given out a lot in the group, so feel free to recap those and anything else fresh you've got. Then we'll go some player stuff, some awards. We've got custom multis as well, and we'll conclude it with Super Bowl picks. But I'm going to try and bring up the AFC East. We'll start in the AFC, mate. So AFC East. You take it away as I find the markets.
No worries, man. I'll scroll down my notes. So for this one, obviously one of the powerhouse divisions in the whole NFL at the moment. The Bills are sort of run right with this one. We had the Jets sort of slam down our throat last year. They loaded those guys up with a whole heap of primetime games. Aaron Rodgers, obviously a couple of plays into the season, then was injured. So what the NFL did this year, they sort of got a little bit cheeky with slamming the Jets down our throat once again, basically because they want the New York teams to be good. All right. And I think they start the season against San Francisco, and then basically it's just like a cakewalk for the rest up until about week 5. They're playing all these rookie quarterbacks away from home. So they're going to play Drake May, Bo Nix. It was going to be JJ McCarthy. And that's obviously a horrid start. Most rookie quarterbacks, the last decade, rookie quarterbacks are just 36 and 76 when lost weeks 1 through 5. So they're just cakewalking, I believe, the Jets to have a good start. And then weeks 6 through 11, they have 4 of their 6 games in primetime. So you got the Bills, the Steelers, Texans, Colts. They are force-feeding the Jets down our throat once again. They've got the 4th easiest schedule of opponents in 2024. Obviously, their division is a lot harder. It's a very competitive division. They've done great in restocking the offensive line to protect Aaron Rodgers. That way he doesn't get hurt straight away. I believe they're the team to beat in that division. I'm extremely nervous personally about the Bills and what they're going through. They actually played a lot of sort of backup quarterbacks last year. You roll through that one. So they had Zach Wilson, Jimmy G, who was obviously both of those guys benched, cut, traded. That's Sam Howell, Tyrod Taylor, Mac Jones, Tim Boyle, Easton Stick, Bailey Zappi, and Russell Wilson. All those guys were either backups or benched. They've got a very difficult schedule of opponents as well. They're at Houston, week 5, Indianapolis, week 10, LA Rams, week 14, and Detroit, week 15. Big changes on that roster. They had to turn over. Obviously got rid of Stephon Diggs. I don't know who Josh Allen's going to be thrown to. They've lost Poyer and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, both of their safeties in there. And you sort of saw them change their philosophy last year towards the end where it was sort of Sean McDermott got his way and they're running a lot. It's going to be ground and pound. It's still Josh Allen. He's a superstar, so he's going to keep things competitive. But I'm just nervous for how they're going to play as a whole. The other one in there, obviously, are the Dolphins. Everyone loves the Dolphins. They're a lot of fun. McDaniel changes their scheme yearly, and he addresses it mid-season as well, and you can see that. So 2 years ago, towards the end of the season, they came up against the Chargers, and I remember it was Tua's worst game. He was like 10 of 25 or something, and he got stopped by Staley from the Chargers, of all people. And they actually had a rematch in week 1 last year, and Tua ended up going for 475 yards or something like that. Like, they do adjust. They know how to beat teams. They don't have a pass rush. They got good secondary. They're going to attack. They're going to be fun. But they haven't proven themselves, I don't believe. Like all last year, all they did was just beat pretenders. And when they come up against playoffs teams, they lost to Baltimore, Buffalo, KC, Philly, Buffalo, KC. But the only team they beat was Dallas, 22-20. Their schedule is 1-2, 1-12. Sorry, this year is the second easiest, but from week 13 onwards, they play the second toughest schedule, so it's going to be a lot tougher for them as well. I find it hard to trust them. Like I said, they just cannot prove themselves to beat good teams. Pass rush is a liability. So for me in this division, I haven't bet it, but I think the team to beat is the New York Jets.
So let us know if you've got any bets involving teams in this division. To me, I'm glad that you spent a while talking about the Jets. They are the side standing out to me because if you can go 7-10 last year with a historically bad quarterback, then I think there's a great upside there. We know the defense is capable of, and I really think it's not even just the enhancement you get at the quarterback position, but it's how everyone else gets a little bit better, kind of like when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay. And then you got Breece Hall the second year after the ACL injury. It's a team that can build momentum, and you said can kind of harness a friendly schedule. I look at the Bills and I wonder, is their window still open? Like, Allen is in his prime, and he doesn't play as reckless now, which is good and bad in a way. It's probably good for longevity, but maybe that lowers the ceiling of the offense. And I've got big question marks over the Bills' skill positions too. And then I look at Miami. I just don't believe in them as much this year. I wonder if the opponents will figure them out to a degree. And you rely a lot on guys like Tua and Tyreek that maybe have a sketchy health history. The Patriots will be very bad. I'm sure you agree. So any bets or we move next division?
No, probably move on from that one. I personally don't have anything that I've put out other than... No, I lie. Sorry. So on Bet365, you can actually get the Patriots to have the worst record. I put that one up, and it was $4.20, and I'm still pretty heavy on that one.
I like that. I think even if they're real with themselves, they'd be smart, and they'd kind of want the worst record to reload again with the next draft. Okay, take it away. Start talking about the AFC North, mate.
AFC North, no worries. I'll just bring me notes up here. Sorry, mate. AFC North. Sorry, I'm just pandering. Obviously, the best division in football at the moment, extremely competitive. So, in my mind, for this one, it is a two-horse race, and it's between the Ravens and the Bengals, right? So the Bengals, they finished fourth in the division last year, which was a fantastic thing for them because the way that the schedule lines up, so when you finish a certain position in the division, you then play other divisions in different conferences against teams that finish at the same one. So because of the way that they finished, they end up playing against the Panthers, Titans, and Patriots on this one. They've also got the NFC East, AFC West. They play Jaden Daniels early. It all sets up for them really perfectly. We've got Joe Burrow coming back. They're healthy. Their offensive line is still iffy. They also let go DJ Reader, who went over to Detroit. And when he would play and he was in the lineup, they're actually the number one run defense in the league. This was going on for a number of years. And when he was off the field, they actually dropped to dead last in yards per carry. So that's a massive loss on them. I love their defensive coordinator, Anarumo. They were sort of in a lot of trouble last year because they lost both their safeties. They had Jesse Bates and they had Von Bell. Von Bell he might have gone to us. Jesse Bates went to the Falcons. So Von Bell's come back. Very important for them to have the safeties in the way that they line up and the way that they structure their defense as a whole. So it's good that he's come back. But the Bengals actually got screwed over in the scheduling department pretty heavily. And this was last year as well. So they're one of the teams this year that actually has to play 3 games in 10 days, which is completely brutal. They also have to play 3 short week road games. So week 4 in Carolina, week 10 in Baltimore, and week 15 against Tennessee. So that's hard for them. Extremely, extremely hard for them. But I think they're a team to sort of watch heavily, I guess, this season. They were very competitive last year, even without Joe Burrow as well. So they went 4-7 versus playoff teams, but were 5-1 on non-playoff teams. And that's pretty fucking impressive considering you don't have your starter there. The other team that they will be contending with the most, obviously, is the Ravens. Their big question mark is their offensive line. They let a lot of guys go. They were finished 9th, in pass block win rate. They were 5th in run block win rate. They left tackle Ronnie Stanley. He is back, but they left a multitude of guys go across that whole front to other teams. They just couldn't afford them. They've also lost their superstar defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, who's gone over to Seattle as well. They lost their DB coach. They lost their defensive line coach. So there's a hell of a lot of change going on there, and that's what sort of happens when you're a successful team. I'm still iffy about, and you say this every year about the Ravens, about their receiver room. Like, Zay Flowers was awesome. he's still young, and is that who you're sort of hanging your hat on? They've gone and got Derrick Henry, which is great, but is he the same Derrick Henry? There's like a lot of tread that has just been worn off those tires. I don't know if he's going to be as explosive, but I think it's a very smart move because Lamar Jackson last year, and we love talking about this stuff on the pod, is when he faced loaded boxes, number one quarterback in the NFL. And what that happens is if you have someone like Derrick Henry, naturally the defense loads the box to try and stop him. And if they're a light box, they hang back because they want to stop Lamar. You then have to deal with Derrick Henry, who's extremely powerful, running over the top of people. Another good setup for the Ravens as well. They have the best rest edge of any team in the NFL. They've got plus 16 days, which is the largest, I think, rest edge in modern history, what I've got here. So they've got an extra 3 days to prepare against the Raiders, another 3 against the Steelers, another 7 against the Giants, and another 4 against the Browns. And when you have a look, John Harbaugh's Ravens are actually 21-5, 81%, with a rest edge of 3 days or greater. So it sets up well for them as well. But again, offensive line, lost their defensive coordinator as well, but it's still the Ravens. Close division.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me. I love how prepared you are, even giving us rest edge. Now, I'm going to give some live podcasting advice, not to try and be the old man on the hill. I just think I'm hanging in there, and I hope I don't mess you up enough, but I hope I don't mess you up. But you've got that much information, and you're talking pretty quickly about these teams. And I reckon when you talk about a team, because you keep saying they, if you can throw in the team name a few more times, I reckon it will help the others that aren't up to speed. Just, because it might not click when you're mentioning names of coordinators or players like who we're on. I was also thinking with the graphic, I'll try and click the odds of the team that Neddy is talking about to help us stay up to speed. I can't wait.
You got to be very careful with how you address people and what you label people these days. Hey, you got to be very careful with that stuff.
You absolutely have to. We don't want to get cancelled. I feel like I knew you well enough that I wouldn't offend you by offering that advice. But you know what? Watching Derrick Henry play on a team with a gun quarterback, though, if you think about how much that could open up things for him and how he could be reinvigorated, like there is a big upside there too. Since 100%. He comes down to Joe Burrow's health, the Browns is the most interesting team in this division to me because they won, I want to say 10 games last year with 5 different quarterbacks. If you get the old Deshaun Watson, this is a Super Bowl contender to me because how good the defense is. I guess the question would be, is that Deshaun ever coming back? And as for the Steelers, they kind of bore me this year. You know, Russ seems cooked. They're 500 team in perpetuity. And because they seem to overachieve, they don't get the best draft picks. So I feel like there's a ceiling on that side. Any response to that or any bets coming out of the AFC North?
I'll get to the bets bit, but the Steelers, I've the notes that I have on them. So the Steelers, they actually play the Steelers the number one toughest schedule of any team in the NFL. Right? I think from week 11 onwards, they play nothing but division games. But sandwiched in there is the Eagles and the Chiefs as well. It's an absolute brutal schedule. And they're one of the other teams that has to play 3 games in 10 days, and that's week 15 through 17. There's a Saturday, Sunday, and a Wednesday game in there. Tough for them. It's Tomlin, so it's going to be close. For a team, no, I don't have anything on them. I would, if I had to make a bet, I would probably say under there. I think this is an 8.5.
But do you have any bets on anyone in the AFC North? It's okay.
Let me just have a quick look. No, I do not. No.
That's okay. Let's keep cruising into the South. Take it away.
Which South, mate? NFC or AFC?
We'll stay AFC, yep.
Okay, yep, easy. So for the AFC South, this one's actually become a lot fun. Surprisingly, everyone on the hot team at the moment is the Texans, but they play an extremely brutal schedule as well. They play 6 elite offenses this year. So they got Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit, Dallas, and Kansas City. I think things are going to become a lot harder for them. And when you have a look last year, who they actually beat, it was Kenny Pickett, Will Levis, Derek Carr, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Gardner Minshew, Baker Mayfield, and Joe Burrow. The team I'm sort of looking at here, which I think could surprise a lot of people, is actually the Colts. Shane Steichen did an amazing job last year when Anthony Richardson went down, how he game planned, and still kept them competitive throughout the whole season. I think with the full season, if Anthony Richardson can actually stay healthy, I think they're actually going to be very dangerous and very lively. I am concerned about their defense because their back end safeties, cornerbacks are atrocious. They do have a bit of a pass rush, so they could be fun. that's the team that I'm sort of looking that can come in and probably upset a few people. And if you wanted to go a Smoky to win that division, that's someone I've actually been putting in to make playoffs and possibly, win that division. I don't like the Jags. Their defense is atrocious. It's going to be the worst defense in the NFL this year. Mark my words on it. So I like the Colts. Also, do not mind the Tennessee Titans, again, to be sneaky in that one. I think it's just going to be a bit of a come down to earth moment for the Houston Texans. Titans are going to surprise some people. They've tried to fix their offensive line. Callahan's brought his old man, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in history, with him to help coach up that team. They've spent draft capital on it. Will Levis, he's got an arm. They've got weapons there. So I think those two teams can upset a few people. But again, I don't have anything outright in that division, largely. But there's a couple of multis and stuff that you will notice that I've put in make playoffs for Colts.
Yeah, we've got the regular season multi each that we can share after we've done a broader look. It's funny, you were talking up Indy, and I wonder why you like Indy so much and who the quarterback Richardson, might remind you of. That's a team with a high upside, but also, I guess, a low downside because of the injury risk. And we don't really know how quickly Richardson's going to develop. But, if he hits the ground running, can be an elite quarterback, or it could take time. It's funny, you started to say, so if you want a value tip for the division, and I thought you were about to transition to Jacksonville, who is actually my dark horse. But then you said, it is Indy. I don't like Jacksonville. So we disagree there. But to me, I wonder who the best quarterback in this division is. Are we writing off Lawrence that he's never going to get to that level? Or, is Stroud already clearly better? I just wonder if Jacksonville is under the radar a little bit. So I like the $3.50 for the division for Jacksonville because Houston is very much the hype team. And I know that they can be elite in the passing game, but I just wanted to steer away from the team that, everybody's going to see coming this year. You didn't have any bets on teams in that division, right? So we'll round out the AFC and we'll go to the West. So you want to start by talking about the defending champs who are trying to win 3 in a row?
I don't have too much to say on them because it sort of happens every year. Last year was meant to be their down year, the Kansas City Chiefs. It was meant to go tits up for them. They were inexperienced. They didn't have the wide receivers. Everything went against them. Luck went against them. And they still won. No one capitalized against them. So it's still Spags. It's still Pat. It's still Andy Reid. I think we're going to see a lot more explosion from them this year, a lot more attacking downfield back to what they used to be like. Raiders, they sort of finished strong-ish last year. I didn't particularly like the way that they were actually playing. Instead of trying to avoid third down, they were trying to get to third down and then inch it. They were just trying to play mistake-free football. I think a lot of those things are going to regress back because O'Donnell and Gardner Minshew, you don't want to be trusting them on third and longs, third and shorts, and fourth downs all that often. There's a hot team in there, the Chargers. I do like the moves that they've made. They had to get rid of Eckler. I don't know who Herb is going to be throwing his piss missiles to. They're going to go in the right direction. This is going to be a very run-heavy, run-eccentric team. He was exactly the same when he was at the San Francisco 49ers, so I'm not overly big, on the Chargers. Broncos, got rid of Russ. Dead cap issues everywhere. Again, I don't have a great deal to say on them. I just know Sean Payton's going to be doing everything that he can to sort of highlight Bo Nix, who is the quarterback for them that they drafted this year. But in this division, for me, for my money, it's still the Kansas City Chiefs. I did place a future on them to win the AFC conference and get to the Super Bowl. I have put that one forward. That's what I played.
Awesome. So we'll check that out as well. It does look like the division's pretty friendly, which is going to allow the Chiefs to cruise because they know that the real season for them is the postseason. But still, they want to definitely lock the division up and get a high seed so they can play the majority, if not all, playoff games at Arrowhead. And then the Chargers are going to be way better this year when you get Jim Harbaugh over Staley. But everybody sees that too. So, back in the Chargers or whatever, it's you're not really finding some hidden gem. I wouldn't write off Denver just with maybe another year with Coach Payton there. I don't see much out of the Raiders. I'm going to flip us straight over to the NFC, and we're going to talk about a division. I know you've got some thoughts on this one because you've picked an exacta in your custom multi. So let us know about the NFC East.
Okay, so with the Cowboys, they're playing a much tougher schedule, okay? they were sort of the hot team last year. They had an easier schedule of defenses last season. 11 of the games were against defenses ranked among the bottom 12 teams in the league. And basically, they just beat up on bad opponents. It's what they do. They play bully ball. So the Cowboys splits the last 3 seasons. They're 25-4 versus non-playoff teams, but against playoff teams, they're actually 12-14. They had a lot of luck going for them the last couple of years, a lot of turnover luck. The defense gets a lot of interceptions. And again, if you're playing bully ball and you're playing against bad teams, you're going to have that. You have a look through history, teams that have positive turnovers for 3 years in a row, which Dallas have, they always regress to the mean in that 4th year. And guess what? Here we are. Dan Quinn has left them. They now have Mike Zimmer. So to me, this points everything towards the Philadelphia Eagles. This team is still extremely loaded. They have the 9th easiest schedule in the league, and their schedule gets easier as the season progresses. They face the easiest schedule of run defenses, which is fantastic because they went and got Saquon Barkley. I'm still a bit iffy on their back end, but from weeks 7 through 18, the Eagles play the following run defenses, 9 of 12 games. Looking at what these defenses ranked last year, they played the 30th ranked Bengals, 29 Giants twice, 27 Panthers, 26 Cowboys twice, 25 Commanders, 22 Ravens. This is a front-running type team. I would love if Kelsey was still there as well. They went and changed their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. They went and got Kellen Moore, who's very pass-heavy, pass-centric, and this is how Philadelphia need to play. And if Jalen Hurts gets into that mindset, he stops freaking himself out and overthinking things, I think this is going to become a very good year for them. The defense, like I said, still a bit iffy on that back end. They went and got 2 cornerbacks, which was a smart move. Cooper DeJean quite possibly can be the first and only white cornerback. Interesting. They went and got him. They've shored things up. They're going to play aggressive if they play smart. They also went and got Fangio, the defensive coordinator. He came back. He's going to be one of their coaches for the defensive side. It typically takes around 2 or 3 years for teams to fully adjust to his scheme because he's so eccentric, etc. But I really like them in this one. I've placed a future for an exacta on 365. So Eagles 1, Cowboys 2. I've also placed a Jalen Hurts to win MVP. I think there's a good chance for him to rack up a lot of stats. And if they continue winning and it gets easier as the season goes on, they'll keep piling it on. I think he could be a front runner. I think they're 2 good bets.
Do you remember the odds you got for the exacta?
I got 287.
Okay, 287. I noticed you could get $6 if you did the whole division in order, right? But that just means making one more decision. Right, so it's a little bit more than double of what you got. So I'm just interested. Do you have a preference, Washington versus New York? Because you could actually go the $6 option.
100%. Yeah, I would definitely do that. So I would go Philadelphia. I would go Cowboys. I would go Washington, and then I'll go Giants. I think the Giants are gunning everything they can. All right, cool. I'll get on it right now.
So there you go. Yeah, juicy. I'm actually going to throw back to you then because I just wonder what went wrong for the Eagles after they were 10-1 last year. Like, did teams figure them out? Is it just Hurts was injured? Because they did fall off a cliff last season, and you're pretty optimistic about it this year. So how do you sum up, like, what went wrong?
It was a game planning issue. And if you have a look at the season prior, when the offensive coordinator, he went and he's now the coach over at Indianapolis. So he left. He was, and again, we saw it and we were speaking about this when we were talking about the Colts. He's very smart at jumping out in the lead and just continuously attacking. But then last season, they sort of changed that philosophy. They weren't leading at halftime in as many games. So they actually had to claw their way back. And then probably midway through the season, and people said when they played the 49ers, I think Nick Bosa said, he goes, "Oh, we've figured it out." And it came out, I read an article on The Athletic, I think it was. And what they were doing was they were just flat out blitzing, just all out blitz. There was just no coverage. It was just go straight at Jalen Hurts and he would panic. And then they would show that look again and then bail out and he wouldn't know where to go. And he'd just scramble, run around, throw the ball out or just get panicked, happy feet, and then just start throwing balls into the dirt. And that's what teams are doing, which is, it sounds stupid and sounds very, basic. But if you're not coaching or game planning for these bailout situations on the plays that you have and he doesn't know where to go, then he would sort of panic. And that, like I said, that's going to come down to coaching. So as long as Kellen Moore can be like, all right, here's your check down, here's your bailout, here's your quick option for this, it's a relatively easy thing to overcome.
Shout out to Alexi in the chat, his old college mate, Kellen Moore, taking over the offensive reins. For what it's worth, I completely agree. I really like Philly this year, and I do think that Hurts being injured and still playing, and everyone gave him where he was like the favorite or equal favorite for the MVP. So I like that shout as well. Dallas have got a depth issue for mine because you've got 3 players that are near the highest paid at their position. But overall, Dallas has actually been kind of stingy with the cap. So I don't know how much else is around those players and if those players can take Dallas to the promised land. Washington's going to be dependent on how good Daniels is straight away, which is exciting to watch. And I suppose the Giants are condemned to being a mediocre team because Daniel Jones is not going to take them to an elite level. It doesn't look like. Now, this. You said the AFC North is the strongest division, what, in the AFC or in football? Because the North is also very strong in the NFC. Why don't we move there?
Yeah, perfect. So this is where I've got a lot of my capital, tied up. I'm huge on the Detroit Lions for this. How they played last season, they actually had a lot of negative things happen that they could actually regress to the positive this year. I've gone plenty of weird, wonderful bets on this one. So I've gone Detroit over 10.5 wins. I've got an alternate long shot. I've gone over 11.5 wins. I've also got last remaining undefeated team for the Lions and the best regular season record. Also the Lions on that one. So again, I love how they set up. I love how they're moving. They addressed some of their secondary issues. They went and got DJ Reed I was talking about before. They didn't even need more help to stop the run, but they went and got it. I think they were 4th, against the run last season. Fantastic when they didn't blitz. Their problem was that they did blitz, and every time they blitz, they actually dropped to one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So again, they're locked. They're reloaded. They're ready to go. They have the 5th easiest schedule, through week 8. They've also playing a ton of home dome games, where Jared Goff naturally plays better. So they've got Arizona, which is the dome, Dallas week 6, Houston week 10, Indianapolis week 12. And then you have San Francisco, which they played in for the conference championship last year. So naturally, play better in a dome. I love that. The big iffy point for this, and a lot of people are big on this, are the Packers. They showed a hell of a lot of promise in the back end last year. Again, they played relatively iffy quarterbacks. Ritter, Fields, Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, Rippon, Pickett, Tommy DeVito, a lot of people. All right, that's going to be very different this year. They've got the 49ers, Dolphins, Lions twice, Seahawks, Texans, Eagles. It's very, very different. But they showed a hell of a lot of promise. They're so young. And that offensive line as well, extremely young. And I think they're a top 5 unit, I believe, looking at this one here. So that's going to be the competition. There's also a lot of hype as well, I guess, about the Bears. There's a lot of people talking about the Bears at the moment. That offensive line is still a massive issue. Caleb Williams, yep, awesome. Could he be the savior there? Could he actually be the first Bears passer to throw for 4,000 yards? Possibly. But they still gave up 50 total sacks. They didn't do a great deal to address their offensive line in the offseason. And yeah, they've done everything right. They've surrounded him with a hell of a lot of talent. But it's going to be tough. So they play the easiest schedule of. I got lost up there. It gets a little bit harder. So they're going to have the 11th toughest schedule of run defenses that they're facing. So a lot of that's going to be on Caleb Williams to do that through the air. Very hard for a rookie to do. Minnesota Vikings, they're not going to win the North. But I like what they did. They had to get rid of Kirk Cousins. Otherwise, they would have just been going back the other way while all these other teams are locked, loaded, ready to go. So they did the right thing. Just can't help it that their quarterback got injured. So yeah, for me, Lions heavily. I think there's going to be great competition with the Packers, but I'm very, very heavy on the Lions.
The other thing the Vikings can't help is that there's 3 really good teams in the division, which makes it very hard. Everyone is going to see the Lions and Packers coming this year, and that's off the back of great seasons last year, but also very memorable playoff wins. The Lions do look a very complete team. I mean, people really forget how close they were to making the Super Bowl last year. What was that score? It was like 24-7. In San Fran.
They had 2 failed 4th down attempts. I think one was a bad pass, and they also had that crazy long bomb to Ayuk where the defender actually hit it, but then it bubbled and he dived forward and caught it. So crazy game.
It was madness, but that's the trajectory that now that they've arrived and they've got a lot of good players in their prime, and then the Packers have got this young receiving core, especially around Jordan Love. So they're definitely trending in a great direction. Had that memorable playoff win over Dallas too. The Bears are promising because they've killed it with sort of their draft dealings. And I love the wide receivers in Chicago too. So the question here is going to be, how good can Williams be straight away. I was thinking because we know that Green Bay and Detroit will be good, do we look for value fading Chicago because there's a bit of hype around him, a bit of hype around Williams, the number one pick, but maybe he doesn't, mesh straight away. But you talked about the schedule, the Chicago Bears. It seems relatively friendly early in the year too, so that could allow them to find their feet a little bit. So I didn't end up fading the Bears. I know that Lions are a very popular Super Bowl pick or an NFC champion. I'll get your thoughts on who you're picking to come out of the NFC a little later. And I have tied the Packers for what it's worth. I've tied the Packers into my regular season multi. Let's move to the division that's near and dear to your heart. I'm going to ask off the bat, is it the worst division in football, the NFC South?
Yes. Yes, I would think so.
Thanks for your honesty.
That's all right. Anytime. I'm always honest. For this, I'll be a homer. I don't care. I actually grabbed the Panthers over 5.5 wins. I like that one. And I've sort of been trying to sneak Tampa Bay to miss the playoffs into a lot of multis as well. I think a lot of their stuff is going to regress. They're the ones that obviously went forward and represented the NFC South last year and even got a playoff win against Philadelphia, who were just completely reeling. They've got a lot of regression coming towards them. So they were actually number 31 in early down success rate, 30th in percentage of sets of downs that led to a third down. But they were number 10 in third down conversion rate, number 3 in third down EPA per play, and second in the NFL in fourth down conversion rate. You can't keep playing like that. They also had a terrible schedule. They had great turnover luck, fumble luck, field goal luck, health luck, and a career best performance from Baker Mayfield. So I think a lot of that regresses. I'm down on the Bucs. A lot of people are very, very high on the Falcons, and they should be. It is an absolute cakewalk of a schedule. So what I will say is that you've got an old Alex Smith coming off an ACL. So they actually start Steelers, Eagles, Chiefs. If you wanted to bet on them to win the division, maybe wait for after those 3 games. He could be a bit iffy against the Steelers, maybe a bit of happy feet. Then you got the Eagles, then you got the Chiefs. So they could be 0-3. There is still a very strong possibility they come back and win that division. So I'd say wait till week 3 after they play the Chiefs. That's probably a better time to go and put that one on. And if they beat those 3 teams, fucking look out anyway. For the Panthers, I think they have a lot of positive regression happening to them. Is it regression still if it's positive? Anyway, so they're due to play the 26th toughest schedule of defenses, whereas last year it was the 9th toughest. They had faced the 4th toughest schedule of offenses, whereas this year it's the 23rd toughest. Again, we had negative turnover luck. We had everything possibly go wrong, could go wrong. We didn't hold a lead in the fourth quarter at all. We beat the Texans with a field goal as time expired. Same for the Falcons. It was a fucking joke. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on it. We did overhaul the offensive line. Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, brought in Deontay Johnson, Xavier Leggett, Jonathan Brooks. I think we're going to be a little bit dangerous, a little bit frisky. If you want to splash around, if you want to have a little bit of fun, like I have, bet on them to win the South. Who fucking knows? Honestly, the Saints are going to be the Saints. They're the worst. They suck. Their offensive line sucks. Derek Carr sucks. He's horrible under pressure. He's horrible in high leverage situations. Third down, fourth down, red zone. He's horrible when he gets a new offensive coordinator. All those things have happened this year. And the poor old Aints every year did the same thing. If I was a Saints fan, I wouldn't be watching this show because, I'm going to fucking talk about you. But they're just stuck in this purgatory. And it must be so frustrating because they're not doing anything. They're just stuck in this cap hell. They just keep bringing these old guys and recycling all these old fellas that are in there at the moment. Like Honey Badger, Jordan, Jesus Christ. They're all just getting so old, but they just keep them, whatever. But for me, Falcons on this one, extremely easy schedule, very awesome players, very good core. They're going to be a good team, but watch out for those sneaky Panthers.
So people didn't figure it out or don't know Neddy well. He is a bit of a Panthers diehard. If his background didn't give that away, so he's suggesting $13. The Panthers were paying for the division. Shop around, maybe even a little touch higher if you can find it. The good thing about a tip like that is I asked the question, is it the worst division in football? And for that reason, 8 or 9 wins could win that division, which is not impossible for any team. You've said more likely it's going to be the Falcons, who are a bit of the favorite by default. I'm not sure if you deliberately were disrespecting them. I thought I was tripping, but I've seen it in the comments too. You said Alex Smith. Do you mean Kirk Cousins?
Oh, sorry. I wasn't aware that I said Alex Smith. I was just thinking broken legs. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins, sorry.
I picked up on that, but that's the disrespect anyway. And drafting Penix was strange after they signed
Yeah.
Cousins in free agency, because then you're not going to be as strong as you possibly could be, because wouldn't you want to build the best roster around Cousins? We'll be interested to see what Raheem Morris can do there. Tampa had a great year last year, but I don't see them getting any better. And the Saints also, to me, looks like a team whose time has come and gone, because they went all in for several seasons. And, the Saints needed that flag on that final drive in the championship game. That was probably as good as it was going to get for the Saints. And they are, struggling, and they're going to probably need a total rebuild, I would suggest. Let's move to the division where we had last year's NFC champions. San Francisco are clear favorites again in the NFC West.
So for the 49ers, the last couple of years, they've been the 10th most injured, 4th most injured, 6th most injured, number 1 most injured, 3 most injured, 9th most injured. Last year, they were the 4th healthiest team, and they went to the Super Bowl. We finally got to see what Kyle Shanahan could do with a healthy team. Didn't work out. They were leading for most of the game to the fourth quarter, broke everyone's heart except for Maddie's. Time to reload, right? Well, it's going to be a lot harder for them this year. Their schedule is far harder. They haven't actually had to play a whole bunch of teams that are high-powered offenses in a long time. And this year, that is going to happen. They've got the 4th most difficult schedule of opponents. And during that span, from week 7 onward, they've got the 4th most difficult schedule of opponents. And during that span, they actually got a rest disadvantage in 6 of those 11 games. And this is something that should be familiar, I guess, if people dive into this and look at this sort of stuff, is last year, the 49ers had the worst rest disadvantage in history. Funny enough, the schedule makers have given them this year the worst rest edge in history. And you could say that last year, who gives a shit? Like, they still made it to the Super Bowl. But all told, the 49ers were 2-2 outright and 1-3 against the spread when playing with a rest deficit of 2 or more days last year. They have a rest disadvantage of negative 20 days this year. It's tough. Maybe that's why they get injured. It's still the 49ers. It's still Kyle. I still love them. I don't think they're probably going to reach their target of, I think it's 10.5 or 11.5. I don't know if they're going to get there, because I do think teams like the Seattle Seahawks are going to be a lot better this year. Cardinals are going to be better if Kyler Murray can stay healthy. Rams, I'm still a bit iffy on, because the age and everything, and Aaron Donald's gone, and there's a lot of changeover in there. And they did great. You saw them adjust last year. They were a bit up in the air mid-season. They made a few adjustments, started throwing the ball outside the numbers a hell of a lot more, looked a lot better. I'm starting to fall in love a little bit with the Seahawks. I love that Mike McDonald, who is the defensive coordinator for Ravens, gone over there. He's a mastermind. And you see he is familiar with playing against the Shanahans and the McVays, because he actually shut them down. And he's got a loaded defense over there, and a team that was stuck with Pete Carroll and how they wanted to do it, run the ball. Like, they had three stud receivers, but he still wheeled out 21 personnel and only kept 2 receivers out on the field last year and just ran the ball a ton and just sent DJ Metcalf on streaks. Ridiculous. So they've brought over an offensive coordinator. This is the Seahawks, by the way, who was a college guy. There's a lot more motion. There's a lot more passing. There's a lot more 11 personnel. So I think there's going to be a lot more points scored on that offense. That defense is loaded with talent. I've got Seattle to make the playoffs. Yes, on Ladbrokes, if someone was a little bit lazy with their lines. I saw your comment before. Cheeky bastard. $2.80 on that one. And I've also been sort of slotting them into a couple of my multis as well. If I had to, gun to my head, who wins that division? I would say 49ers, because they're a professional unit. They did the right thing. They got Ayuk signed. They paid Trent Williams literally this morning. But I think Seattle's going to be better. I think they're going to be closer. And that's probably about it for me on that one. I don't have too much on the Rams.
It's a great story too. McDonald, the coach of the Seahawks, overcame. He had a crippling porn addiction. He's overcome it. Now he's the coach of an NFL team. So there's hope out there for Alexi Podowski in the chat. You didn't know that.
No, I didn't. Tell me more.
He wrote a book. He wrote a book apparently, and he talked about that in his book. See, wow, an NFL fact that I knew that Neddy didn't. There you go. So again, shout out Alexi. I look at San Fran also similar to the Chiefs, that they'll probably pace themselves and not put too much workload through their stars. Like, I've got McCaffrey in fantasy because I got the number 1 pick again. But I'm honestly not that excited. I reckon they'll just do the bare minimum. I'm not expecting him to, score 1 or 2 TDs every single week. I reckon it's smarter to kind of go by committee and just really use them when you need them, and then lean on a bit more on run CMC in the playoffs. I'm also not sold on the Rams because they've traded so many draft picks in past years. It catches up with you at some point. Of course, no Donald this year. So Seattle's interesting to me because it's a younger side. So again, we'll see how McDonald goes. And Arizona could be a smoky, but it does depend on Kyler Murray, as you said.
Their defense is just atrocious. That's the problem with them.
So it should be a fun team to watch. We've got our season multis we're going to share next. Then we'll do player awards. But have a little halftime break if you want, Neddy. I'm going to throw to a market update clip from our friend Tristan at Toppy.
G'day everyone, it's Tristan Merlahan here from Top Sport. The NFL season is not far away. The first game kicks off on Friday and it's always a very enjoyable time of the year. As always, the Super Bowl market's really, really tight with Kansas, the favourites at $6.25, San Fran $7 nipping at the heels, and a pretty tight logjam after that with Baltimore, Detroit 11, Philly 13, Cincinnati 15, Houston at 16. So been a little bit of support for the obvious options in Kansas and San Fran. They're our second and our third worst ways. But the biggest go so far has been Green Bay. They've been back from $21 into 17, and they're their biggest liability at the moment. On our side, I think it looks like another really open competition. I think, I'm hoping as a Detroit fan they can continue their improvement from last year. I think Houston showed a lot of signs as well that they're on the up. Obviously, Stroud's a good young quarterback. Whether they can go the distance is a question mark, but I think it's going to be another really, really good season of football. The MVP market is also another one that always attracts a lot of interest early in the season, where, as we would expect, Mahomes is the favourite. He's at $4.50 with Allen at $9.50 and Burrow at $9.50 as well, to coincide with that money for the Packers. Jordan Love has also been well back, $15 into 11. He's our worst way in this market at the moment. So some Packers fans out there that are nice and excited. Getting ready for the season. Obviously, Jacob and Neddy have got some custom multis up there, which is always going to attract plenty of interest. And from the same game multi perspective, we're building out a new product which we softly launched for the Super Bowl last year. We're going to be adding more and more features throughout the course of the season. So a few of the options are there this weekend, but we'll have that really ready to go come the middle to later part of the season. We're excited to see how that shapes up. So good luck over the course of the season. Should be plenty of action and really exciting to see NFL back on our TV screens. Thanks, guys. Gamble responsibly.
Thanks, Tristan. Retraction. I think I was wrong, and I should not
about the porn.
say anything that could be done for defamation. So the porn addiction, I think I got my wires crossed, and I was actually thinking of Alex in the chat. I actually just Googled it, and it was Dave Canales, your coach.
That's our coach.
Yeah, so that's
this is Panthers coach.
And said that. So not McDonald from Seattle. Disregard that. Because it's even funnier. It's your own coach, and you didn't know that. Okay, mate. Tristan just touched on these custom multis. You cooked your one. Do you have it offhand? I think I can paste it into the comments as well. And take us through it.
Yeah, so I have sort of touched on them here. So I ended up going the Lions over 10.5 wins. NFC East, Eagles to place first, Dallas second, Panthers over 5.5, and Seahawks over 7.5 wins. And I think that was $15, I think you said. Yeah, so that's what that one lands at.
So Toppy's put these up now. They're under NFL market. So $15 odds, I can tell you that's a juicy price. Up to 20 on that. I'll share mine in a second too. You're going to see the Undertaker's there. His was chosen from the group, most popular submission within the group, and his is at 13s. And Toppy is going to hold those prices for everyone who's tuning in live right now or catches the show tonight, being Wednesday night. You're going to get those prices. After that, it depends on liability, how many people jump on. They could creep in a little bit tomorrow. So don't wait. If you've got the opportunity, you like the sound of that. Neddy's already explained kind of why he's leaning those three teams overs. And I really do like that exacta in the NFC East. Now I'll try and copy my own creation onto the screen as well. My one's also 20 max on Toppy, and it's a $10 odds. And I'm going Jets over 9.5 wins. So we talked about how it can be a really positive season for New York. I'm going Dolphins under 9.5 wins. So I favor a couple other sides in that division a little more. And worry that the Dolphins won't take the lead by storm so much. Packers make the playoffs. Pretty logical, and a lot of people like that. And Colts, I've got Colts miss the playoffs, where you and I had a little disagreement there on how the AFC South may shake out. Houston's going to be tough to handle. I do rate Jacksonville And there's enough playoff teams in the AFC that I think the Colts, while there might be a decent upside there with Richardson, there's also reality it could take a little longer. Just those 4 legs together is going to get you $10. Odds, as I said, are our code if you need Toppy is TryPod, and then you can DM myself, Jacob Wynn, or the TryPod page on social media if you do take that up. Undertakers, I don't have it in front of me. I'd say just check it out in the group or under the Toppy Markets and see if you like that. But again, $13 was a nice price. So we've talked a lot about teams, Neddy. So I'm actually not going to make people wait any longer. Give us your Super Bowl pick then. So who's coming out of each conference?
Well, you can sort of tell by the way that I've been speaking. I do believe that from the NFC, I think the 2 top ones are going to be your Lions and the Packers. Lions, sorry. Your Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the ones that I believe in the most out of there. And yeah, I just think things aren't going to go the way that the 49ers want to. So they're the ones I'm looking at. Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles. And yeah, for a Smokey, I do not mind the Packers at all. If Jordan Loves keeps playing the way that he was playing at the end of last season, he certainly looked a hell of a lot like Aaron Rodgers, but they're the ones I like the most in that one, in that conference.
And go to the AFC.
AFC, for me, like I already said, I put money on it. The Chiefs, for one. I think if you want to go outside that, I would be looking towards the Jets and possibly the Bengals.
So you and I don't see it too differently because I've gone the longer shot. So in the AFC, I have gone the Jets to win. And you're seeing
Wait till we get to MVP.
But again, sorry?
Wait till we get to MVP. You're going to have to scroll down, boy.
I've got a lot of bets. A lot of my bets are coming at the back end of this show and all the player markets. We're going to have to zoom through to get through them. But $13 this is on Dabble. You can copy me. And also on Alexi's bookie, Ladbrokes and Neds, you can bet $6.40 that the Jets make the AFC Championship game, which I think is great value too because it may be an underdog in the championship game. So $6.40 the Jets make the championship game, and they are my value play. And I kind of explained it. But also, we talked about fantasy for a second. Like, everybody's taking Breece Hall really high. Wilson's going to have a great year. So if they're going to go well on offense, you know what the defense is capable of, then it's a team that has a lot of upside. And then the NFC, I also agree with you. I like the Eagles. And at $10 on Toppy, I think the Eagles came as close as you could to winning the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were 10-1 last year before the season flipped. I like that wide receiver tandem as good as any duo in the league. Saquon on a winning team could still have a little
good
bit of
offensive
juice
line
left.
for a change.
Yes, and the defense, despite losing Reddick, still deep as well. Let's just keep cruising because I wanted to keep it under an hour. So I guess just chime in on these awards if you've got something you really like. Comeback player, you got anything there?
I will say for that one, after the Joe Flacco last year, they've been told that the voters have to actually vote on someone who is coming back from an injury, not just coming back from just being shit or being on the couch. So just be aware of that when you put your money on something anymore. I imagine that Aaron Rodgers is going to be very high up there. I haven't played anyone for that one. I'm not overly interested in the
Rodgers is about $3. Looks logical to me. But Kirk Cousins too. You confused him with Alex Smith, and he is about $6.
Alex Smith,
and and he's very likely to win his division. Rookie awards, right? Offensive or defensive rookie of the year. You tell me. I really don't have great familiarity with these young pups coming through. What have you got in those?
Well, it's going to be Caleb Williams is what they're going to be saying there, but I don't think there's much point betting on that one. Me personally, I like Jaden Daniels on that one. I think he's definitely going to get the stats with it. There's going to be plenty of rushing. He's extremely accurate. Like, I think he was a 99 percentile accuracy passer in college. He does have weapons there. Washington, they're not an overly good team. They're not an overly good defense, so they're going to have to put up a hell of a lot of stats. So I'd be preferring personally to be going to that one, not the Caleb Williams, because that's just too short. Marvin Harrison, no, that's sort of an unproven thing there. So you're going to want for an offensive rookie, you're going to want a decent enough sort of record, and you're going to want the stats for it. So me personally, I'd be going Jaden Daniels. I don't mind that one at $6. Defensive wise, I don't think there was a defensive player picked in the first 15 people, or it might have been that lay too. I think was the first one. They're the only ones that you could be going with. I'm going with Turner. That's actually flipped from what I saw this morning, but regardless. So with Dallas Turner, he is a defensive pass rusher for the Minnesota Vikings. Brian Flores is their defensive coordinator. He's blitz crazy. He's a fucking lunatic. He's a mad scientist. So I think there's a possibility that he can get free there. He might get sacks. That's all you're looking for. Is you're looking for sacks. It's going to be a pass rusher. It's not going to be anyone else for his defensive rookies. Those two guys are the two guys you want. I'm leaning more towards Dallas Turner. And I might even place that myself and put it in my one.
And the next ones we'll talk about, they're not awards, but, well, is it an award if you win the rushing title or the receiving title? In any case, you can bet on, who will have the most rushing, receiving yards, touchdowns as well. I've got a couple of picks amongst this. I'm wary of Burrow with the injury, so I'm going to steer clear of Burrow and anything passing and chase anything receiving. I'm also going to steer away from Tua and Hill because they had a good year last year, but I'm worried about injury. I think Mahomes may coast, and there's even potential you sit in week 18. So I'm probably looking at Dak and CD Lamb as players that are out to prove something and could have a lot of volume. Which of these statistical categories do you want to talk about? You got a bet in any of them?
Not overly. I think for offensive player of the year would be something I'd personally look at for someone like CD Lamb. I think he could definitely rack up a lot of stats because he started to really turn it on towards the end. I don't have too much. I did track down a most regular season rookie rushing touchdowns, which is Blake Corum. He's the guy that's going to be running the ball for the Los Angeles Rams. Yep, correct. So you can get that one at $7.50 on Bet365. So that's something that I've placed and put up in the chat. I have one for coach of the year and MVP, but for the receiving leader, rushing leader, not really, mate. There's way too much variance for that one. But I think CeeDee Lamb's always a good bet for that. Tyreek Hill.
I've got one that I really like, and I reckon you're going to like this too for offensive player of the year. Can you get? He's on the screen. Can you guess who I'm going to suggest for offensive player of the year?
Jamar Chase.
No, I'm steering clear of him because I'm not sure about the
then Bijan.
Burrow injury.
Bijan then?
Yes, Bijan Robinson. So to me, I liked him for rookie of the year last year, but Stroud was miles ahead. The thing is, Bijan is such a weapon.
Yeah.
And he will get a stack of yards. I don't want to back him in like a rushing or a receiving, category because he's going to get a bunch of both. He's going to get touchdowns on the ground and in the air. If he's healthy, Atlanta could be that sort of styling team this year. And if they have a big year and win the division and are up there in the standings in the NFC, then there's a fair chance that Robinson has set the league on fire. And I have backed that. I think we saw he's like in $15 or $17 range, but 23 again on Dabble. I have backed that. You can copy that from me at Jacob Wynn. Coach of the year, you mentioned. Look, Jim Harbaugh is a very obvious one, but it's a voted award, so it's okay to pick something really obvious because it's probably going to be obvious to the voters. Are you going anywhere else in that market?
Yeah, so McDonald, I got that one. So he's the coach for the Seattle Seahawks. He does
not have a porn addiction. McDonald, just so we
He does not have a porn addiction. So on Dabble, actually, I grabbed it this morning, funny enough, $17 on that one. Like I said, they're going to have a stacked defense over there. Plenty of things for him. What's it, sorry, mate?
You grabbed what this morning?
Mike McDonald for Coach of the Year. I grabbed that one on Dabble.
Sure what we're talking about there.
Hey? You forgot what we were talking about?
Sure what we were...
Yeah, so I grabbed that one just this morning. That one's on Dabble. I like him the most for it because they sit in that perfect range where they only had a couple of wins last year, and all it would take is for them to make the playoff and sort of exceed their over-under. You have a look down through these ones. Yeah, Harbaugh, I don't believe they're going to go that well to start off the year. Eberflus, LaFleur, you just roll down that list. Nothing there really jumps out. I mean, D'Amico Ryan's not going to happen. Steichen, possibly, if they have a really strong showing. I think that could be one. But I think, for me, Mike McDonald. And for $17, where I got it on Dabble, had to have a shot at that one. If you want to go a complete smoky, you can go all the way down to Brian Callahan. So he's $21. He's the Titans head coach. If the Titans just start going on a run, randomly start winning the AFC South, who knows? They'd have to give it to that guy. They don't have to have the best record. You just want to see them exceed their win total and, turn around. And it's not always, but a lot of the time it can be first-year coaches. So that's sort of where you want to narrow it down to.
And that is a perfect segue to the comment there from Logan. Will Levis. Do we say Levis?
Yep,
Will Levis, huge sleeper for pass yards for the Titans, losing Henry, being more
Agree.
pass heavy, rely on his arm. They've added Ridley. And Alexi, he told me that Levis has got an absolute rocket. So that kind of ties in with the conversation we were having earlier. I've got another one, juicy ones. You might not know how to bet on this, mate, but I'll bring it up. That is just the rushing touchdowns, most rushing touchdowns. The obvious pick would be McCaffrey, and then you've got, Derrick Henry moving to Baltimore should get a fair few. Jalen Hurts with the tush push. But I am looking, we talked a bit about the Jets, so I'm looking at Breece Hall for that one. And I'm trying to look what Toppy's got him at $19. But another one, where did I find this? Oh, Ladbrokes and Neds has Breece Hall most rushing touchdowns at $23. I just reckon that's pretty juicy if the Jets are winning a lot of games and controlling more games. I know that Rodgers gets a lot of opportunities at the goal line, but Breece Hall could really break out. I kind of go back to the fact that he's a top 3 pick in fantasy, is he not? Like this year. So is it that crazy that he could lead the league in rushing touchdowns, as opposed to some of these other gun running backs like McCaffrey, Saquon? The thing you got to remember is some of their touchdowns, Bijan as well, will be receiving.
Yep. No, I don't hate that at all. Like you're dead right. For the teams that want to move up and down the field, it's an easy one for their running backs. I don't hate that. He's on the football field a hell of a lot as well. So yeah, I don't hate that.
How about defensive player of the year? Did you have a bet on that one?
I do, actually. So what I've sort of found with the defensive player of the year is more often than not, a lot of the time, it is the favourites and it is the pass rushers. So you have a look down there. So you got Micah, TJ, Myles Garrett, and Nick Bosa. What you do is you go and put a unit on every single one of them, and worst case scenario, you win 2 units. That's all I would do. Honestly, Bosa, Garrett,
I can
TJ,
think of a more worst case.
Well, there is a worst case, I guess. But typically, that's generally what happens. It's generally the favourite. It's generally the pass rushers. I don't think there's anyone else in there that really jumps out at me. Aiden Hutchinson, meh. Max Crosby, maybe. But to me, it's going to be one of those 4 guys. They just seem to recycle them. I would think it was possibly going to be someone like Micah who missed out. TJ, he's averaging a sack a game through his career. But yeah, I would say those top 4, play every single one of them.
See, I totally agree. It seems to always go to the rushers. And you went down the whole list and you stopped just before the guy I'm going to give out, Josh Hines Allen. Not to be confused with the quarterback in Buffalo anymore, because he's added to his name. $26 on Dabble. He had the second most sacks in the league last year, 17.5. A guy that I just like him under the radar a little bit, but maybe breaks out maybe now that he's got a new name. New Josh.
New name, new Josh. Yeah, sure. Go for it.
MVP, mate. You must have an opinion on this. How about a pick?
I do. I've played, personally, I've paid Jalen Hurts. I got him at $19 and I put that one up in the chat. I still like that one because, like I said, their schedule gets easier and it goes on. What typically can happen, though, is when people get very close to winning the MVP and they fall just short, that's sort of it. That's their chance. We have been talking about it a little bit, and we have been going a little bit New York crazy. Scroll on down there to our friend Aaron Rodgers. $21. This guy has been healthy for 10 seasons, right? Typically, 10 full seasons. He's won MVP in 4 of those seasons. Can you just imagine the narrative? So it sets up, they're getting all these primetime games. Let's say they're 5-0 through the first 5 weeks, and they go through all these primetime games, and they continue winning. He's a comeback player of the year. Like last year was a very strange thing for the MVP. Remember, no one really knew what to do with it. Like usually there's a front runner or there's 2 very close people. Like they were arguing, making a case for Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. There was that one game where the Ravens just smoked the shit out of them. And everyone's like, all right, it's Lamar. And Lamar didn't even play that good. Like last season wasn't even his best season. Am I still online? But yeah, so I would, me personally, if you wanted to go a smoky for that one, I would be looking at Aaron Rodgers at 21. I think that's a great shot in the dark. Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, the rest, too short. We're trying to have a bit of fun here. So, yeah, I'm looking at $21.
No, I really thought about that. I was looking at Rogers as well because, as I said, I'm actually picking them for the value to come out of the AFC. I can definitely see it.
Yep.
And it probably involves them winning 12 or 13 games and being maybe a top 2 seed. It doesn't correlate perfectly with me taking Hall most rushing touchdowns because if he was building a case, Rogers, you know that he's pretty much is the offensive coordinator of that team. And I'm
Yep.
sure there'd be a lot of play action and a lot of passing on the goal line. But anyway, that's the nature of these tips. And I've given out a few that are all in the 20s tonight. Like if you hit one, you're happy days kind of thing.
Yep.
So we'll see how we go. One injury, and it's probably going to happen in week 1, and it's so cruel, and you can be blown out of the water. But it can also happen to the other contenders, which is why you said maybe steer clear of the favorites. Although I don't know if I want to officially tip this, but I'll just say it. Like Mahomes, $6 for MVP. Historically, when we look back on his career, we're gonna all say that he should have won a bunch of them. Mahomes has 2 so far. He is unanimously regarded the best player in the NFL. If Casey gets a 1 seed, it's a pretty clear-cut choice. You're not probably going to go too wrong taking Mahomes at $6. You're not going to feel too silly. The other guy I thought for better value is the man you mentioned, Jordan Love, at $15 on Dabble 365. Mahomes won MVP his first year starting. Love's in his second full year, but he will be everyone's darling. If he plays anything like he did to finish the year last season, then Love will be in the discussion. So he fits that profile. I'm not predicting that Love will win the MVP, but you get $15. He fits that profile of like the new shiny toy, kind of like Stroud was last year, and Stroud was in the MVP discussion too. And I feel like Green Bay have the team to win games and the receivers to put up good quarterback stats.
No, I love it, man. I totally agree with it on that one. I think if you wanted to build a bit of a portfolio about betting futures, you'd be mad not to have Pat Mahomes in it. Like, as I touched on before, I do believe they're going to go back to a high-scoring offense. I do believe they're going to start attacking more downfield. Like, last year was just not something that's just comfortable for them, and we saw it. Like, they were clunking left, right, and center. Xavier Worthy's there. Rashee Rice, if he is allowed to play all season, they're just going to go back to what they were. It's going to be points. It's going to be scoring. It's going to be Kansas City.
Because it was like the highest drop rate in the league by Chiefs receivers last year, wasn't it? So there's a lot of room for improvement without Mahomes having to even play any better if he can trust his receivers to catch the ball. That's everything I've got. And we are over the hour mark, but have we missed anything from yourself, mate? Were there any other kind of markets you wanted to hit on? We've done pretty well, I reckon.
We've done outstanding, mate, especially you. Let me just look down through here. Best regular season. Nope. That's pretty much it, man. They were the ones I wanted to touch on. They were the ones at the most decent odds, yeah. Everything I spoke about.
And the thing is, and I was going to say this at the start, like there's almost an infinite number of ways you can bet the NFL. Like if you start looking at these futures, because you start getting down to individual player props and then playing a certain player over, under, yards, touchdowns, and the amount of different categories these players are separated into, like it's insane. And then different bookies have got different groups. So like there's only so much we could cover, but I do feel like we've done pretty well touching on a lot of the main ones, giving an overview of our thoughts, plus a bunch of tips. But of course, that's what the comments are for. Fire away any other questions at us. Tag Neddy for sure. Let us know what you guys really like. If there's any other bets that you love. Some of these you can bet throughout the year. Other ones, those markets do tend to go away because maybe it's harder for the bookies to monitor. So be aware that the season does kick off Friday morning, Aussie time. And then we've got a Saturday morning Australian time game as well from Sao Paulo. So it all happens. In fact, on that note, Neddy and my multis, they don't have any teams involved until Saturday. So I think they'll be open till Saturday, but back them as soon as you can. Matty loves his Chiefs. He's picked his Chiefs in his multi. So you have to get on Matty, the Undertaker's multi, by Friday morning. So you've got, a day and a half to do so. I pretty much go back into my NRL bunker now. We're on the eve of the finals, and I observe the NFL as a bit more of a fan. But Neddy's obviously balls deep. After the NRL season, I will definitely chime in again, and I might, reunite with yourself, mate, and do some more NFL betting content. I had a wild run with my touchdown scorers last year, especially the way we finished the year in the playoffs. So we'll see what we can do. But maybe let's close the show, just letting people know what your plans are for the year with Neddy Given Sunday. I was teasing you before that, I should call you Tom Brady. The amount of times you've hinted like you're going to retire, but you're back again.
I just hint retirement every time it's due for a new contract, mate, and then I just bump it up. That's how it works. No, yeah. So at this stage, again, I was up in the air for quite a while. I had a second child March this year, and I'm currently being a stay-at-home dad at the moment, which is why I've got these things under my eyes, which are bags. Second type of bags in my life, but yeah. So it's been pretty busy, but for this season, I will be going around again. It might look a little bit different. I'll talk about it a little bit more on Sunday. I might be putting the shows out a little bit earlier. Some weeks, if it's too hectic, I might just be doing a column at the moment. But yep, we will be here. We will be going one back year around. We've got you guys. We've got Top Sport. We've got Big Wheels ready to go.
Awesome. So in the group, like Neddy will just fire in some tips that he likes anytime, through the week for the upcoming round. But then Neddy Given Sunday as well, which will be on Sunday afternoon, live on the TryPod Facebook page. You tune in there. He's going to tell you some of his favorites for the week. He's going to break it down. He's going to give you nuggets of knowledge and set the table for you beautifully to enjoy that smorgasbord of footy every Monday morning. So I can't wait.
I'll jump in, mate, if you can. Yeah, correct. So make sure you follow me in there and in the chat, because typically sort of how my brain and everything works is that I can post tips from anywhere very early in the morning to anywhere late at night. So if you're not following, you're sort of going to miss it. And if I were to post a total, whatever, it can move. Okay. So if you come in there, if you go, all right, I'm just going to check his tips on Saturday morning or whatever, the total could have moved 2 or 3 points by then. So typically I'll put them out. It's going to be pretty quick. On the show, for the last couple of years, I put out a guess of the week, which is a line, a number, player prop, whatever that is still available at the time of recording. And I think last year as a whole, I think that was 60-something%. So if that was the only bet you played every single week, cash it, no worries. So again, follow, support. We'll see what we can do.
I know it needs a new name. You're calling it Guess of the Week is selling it short because it was a moneymaker last year.
No, but yeah, because there's a story about that. Because somebody said a comment that said I was putting out a bet and they said, at this stage you're basically just guessing. So I made Guess of the Week and it was 60-something%.
I know what that comment was. That was someone having a go at you because you didn't get the Gatorade color right one year. Are you just guessing at this point as opposed to what? As opposed to doing witchcraft somehow knowing? Anyway, mate, it's a bit of a thankless job, and that's why I'm grateful that you're back here and you copped the brunt. But there's also plenty of people in the community who do love you. So go and check Neddy out, especially if you're listening to this as a pod or you're seeing this on the TryPod YouTube. Neddy's regular show will just be exclusive to Facebook at this stage. So can't wait for it. Can't wait for the season to kick off. Jump on our bets if you like the look of them, or let us know your own. Thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. Have a great week. Thanks for your time, Neddy, mate. I'll talk to you through the year. Good luck in fantasy. Hope you knock off Alexi in week 1. And as always, Lego.